Welcome everybody, welcome to our second episode of Fantasy Football. We'll be keeping the theme similar to last week's. We're going to start off by going through a bit of an intro, talk about our team's performances, impressive performances in Fantasy Premier League this week, have some talking points, do a quick we'll touch base quickly on the transfer market, which is about to close, review the schedule, upcoming fixtures of teams and where there's potential to pick up good players, and finish with the most important thing, our captaincy choice.
Let's do it.
Alright, let's get into it. So we'll start off, and I'll just keep the theme the same as last week. Burnley 2, Liverpool 0.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Well, those who are Liverpool fans know the cycle of being a Liverpool fan, and this is pretty standard. It's a roller coaster ride.
2 games into the season.
2 games into the season, it's not surprising. What a disastrous result though. You go away to Arsenal, you score 4, you get 3 points. Yes, it's away, and look, they start with 3 away games, Liverpool, which is part of the reason why I hadn't had a Liverpool player yet.
Which you spoke about last week.
Which I touched on last week, and that's actually because of their stadium. They're doing development there, and so they've asked, I guess, for the first 3 away, which is probably going to, in the back end of the season, be a decent little spot to maybe get some value later on. But no, in terms of result, I watched the game, defensive mishap, 90 seconds in, score. I think the game finished at about 85% possession to Liverpool. It didn't even have a single real clear-cut chance except for some strikes from 20-25 yards out. Jordan Henderson was atrocious. He played like a local comp player. He couldn't have the ball just kept bouncing around. He kept turning it over. He was really bad. I don't know what changed from away at Arsenal to away at Burnley. I don't know. Burnley had 2, maybe 3 chances, scored twice.
Yeah, so
Liverpool, all they did, they held the ball in midfield and just keep pinging it out wide with no real change of structure at all. Marino doesn't start. They start Milner on the left wing, and every time he'd bomb down the left, he would cut back onto his right foot because he's not left foot. I don't think he put a single ball across from his left foot, and that's easy to defend. Burnley showed it. It was a huge drop off in 7 days. I don't know how that happens.
I'll give you a couple of stats.
Shoot.
The most transferred in person last week was none other than Coutinho.
Sure.
Over 250,000 people.
Yeah.
Some people would have even gone for him as captain.
Yeah, some people did, yeah.
That clearly was a big mistake.
Yes.
I think Liverpool have disappointed a lot of people, especially in terms of fantasy as well.
Yeah.
I for one, I mean, if it wasn't for my policy of not having Liverpool players, I would have had Coutinho in my team without a doubt.
Yeah.
Against the newly promoted Burnley, I was expecting points.
Yeah, particularly with a relatively tough schedule, that was almost one of the.
That's the game you get.
Yeah,
that's the game.
That's the game that you.
To have some points.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm sure if things turn around and you guys do end up doing well, I'm sure you would take the win of Arsenal over Burnley.
Look, if you wait
if
you walk away from the first 2 games away with 3 points, it's not bad. It's not good.
Yeah,
it's okay. But after getting 3 points at Arsenal, it's horrible. So it's kind of one of those things that, before the season started, if you walk away with 3 points, you'd probably assume that come from Burnley, and you've dropped points away at Arsenal, which isn't a disgrace. But yeah, it's just disappointing on the back of such a good performance 7 days before.
Yeah. Here's a fun fact for you: despite scoring 4 goals against Arsenal, you guys have conceded more now.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah, that is a fun fact.
Yeah. That's definitely a fact that won't win you a championship, will it?
No,
the Premier League.
No.
Alright, we'll move on to our next topic. On to how we went.
Yeah.
69 points from you this week. Overall, I'd say I'm happy.
Yeah.
Could have done slightly better. Made a small mistake of leaving Holding from Arsenal on the bench.
What do you finish with? 5
points. The alternative, Arnold from Swansea, just gave me 1, so I could have had an extra 4 points.
Wow.
in the grand scheme of things, that could make a difference.
Yeah.
At this stage, I'll leave it as it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's clearly a tactical error on my behalf. Having said that, I think there was an improvement in my team in terms of performance. There's more of a balanced performance. And it kind of went in line with how Fantasy Premier League went this week. It was more to do with defense and attack. Midfielders overall had a very quiet week, unless you had one or two. And no one had a combination of these four, which are the guys in the dream team. I mean, Shaw gave me 11 points, which was amazing. Last week I had him, he didn't do that, and I had De Gea, who didn't give me a clean sheet last week. So this week both of them gave me 17 points.
Yep.
Like I said, midfield was average at best. I only got 2 or 3 points. Barkley gave me 5 points because he had an assist despite conceding.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with that. He was the person I transferred in after I lost Aaron Ramsey to injury. I lost a bit of value, but Barkley seems to have gone up, so that's hopefully going to cancel itself out. Forwards were great. Negredo, 2 assists, 2 bonus points.
Yeah.
Sergio Aguero, well, we don't need to speak too much about it. 3 bonus points, 2 goals. It's just what he does.
And I think he almost had those amount of points after about 25 minutes of that game. So I was expecting a historic sort of points performance, and it was great. Don't get me wrong, but yeah.
I was very happy when he got to 2 points because I don't have Zlatan. Over 50% of people in the Fantasy Premier League have Zlatan, so I needed to hedge it.
Yes,
he delivered. Captain Kun, as always, is coming through. Overall, I'm still in the top 6. Slightly moved forward. So shout out to Drake. I'm still in the top 6, but hopefully moving forward at 204k out of 3.5 million players. So it's moving. Obviously, every point makes a difference. Had I had the whole 4 points, additional 4 points from holding, that could have propelled me further. But
it does seem like, and it is only 2 weeks in, but you need to be scoring 70 to 90 points to really start pushing up into that next level. And I mean, I'm a while away from that. Another average week, I thought, about 64 points. Again, pretty much the same lines as yourself. The midfield disappointed. My 3 defenders and goalkeeper combined for 26 points.
So that's about 40% of your total points.
Yeah, and then
after last week's disappointment.
So exactly.
Definitely turned it around.
They turned it around, and then Ibrahimovic himself, being my captain, was 26 points. So there's about 81% of my scoring from 5 players. So
wow,
that's how I guess it could have been. And I guess I'm lucky enough to have those guys to bring me that up to that sort of level. But the midfield 5 combined for just 11 points. I had Lukaku, which in hindsight was a silly decision. I should have went with Negredo to start. He was on my bench and scored points. So I actually thought Lukaku might not actually play. And I thought if he does play, he's going to start. He didn't, but he came off the bench at about the 35th minute, which is interesting. There was an injury and he came on early. So he played enough time to kind of score points, and he didn't. I mean, I know he's coming back from injury. One positive note is he's basically confirmed he'll be staying at Everton. So there's been last couple of weeks been a lot of talk with Chelsea, and they're putting a pen to a new contract. So things can change, of course, leading up to the transfer.
I'm just hoping I can swoop him and grab him and finally break bank, but that's not happening. So we'll keep going with you.
That's basically it. The one disappointment being Negredo, who I had on my bench with 10 points. So that, I was tossing up, it was basically a coin flip.
You didn't think about starting him as well? Going with three forwards?
The thing with my midfield is, and it's probably been my biggest downfall so far, is I've rated the opening schedule of Crystal Palace. They've played 2 games and haven't scored a goal. I've had Zaha and Townsend, and I thought going into this game that they could turn things around. They finished with 1 point each. Jordan Ibe's been pretty poor to start the season after a fairly big money move from Liverpool. And is that my Liverpool homerism coming through, picking him up? I just thought he was at decent value. I thought he was going to get a lot of opportunities, and he's actually been pretty poor. I've targeted him to potentially be moved going into the next week. Eriksen, again, another disappointing player. He finished with 3 points, but he was subbed off probably because of how poorly he was playing. And once that move was made, Tottenham really started playing a lot better.
Yeah,
so that's difficult. And then Martial again with 3 points, who, I'll take at that point after his first week.
Yeah, his first week was good too.
Yeah.
So it kind of balances out. I can't really complain with him. I have him in my team. He gave me 3 points. I'm happy to take that.
Yeah.
Especially considering I didn't have Zlatan and I knew there was going to be goals. So there's always the opportunity for him to either score or assist.
Yeah.
And he got an extra 1 point, which was, I'll take that.
Take it, yeah.
Did you know if you had started Negredo instead of one of the other guys, you would have ended up with 73 points. And your position in the league would have not changed.
Oh, is that right?
That's right. But if you had got an extra 2 points, you would have moved up 3 or 4 spots.
Yeah, right.
It's
pretty
really tight up there.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll move on to our impressive performances this week. As we mentioned earlier, it's mostly going to be defenders and forwards. Midfielders had a bit of an off week. But we'll start off with goalkeepers.
Yeah.
With none other than Mr. Heaton.
Yeah.
Burnley.
Yeah.
I'll give you some quick stats.
Yeah, go stats.
Clean sheet, 5 saves. So that gave him an extra save point and 3 bonus points. In that game, he gave 3 bonus points. So that clearly shows that the Burnley attackers weren't doing too much other than taking their chances. And when they did, and that was it.
Yeah,
so the 3 bonus points went to the keeper.
Yep. And I mean, look, it was one clear-cut actual quality save. And that was from about 25, 26 yards out, and that was at about the 88th minute. So yes, he'll get marked down for some saves. They were straight to him. Poor performance.
Just didn't have it.
They were poor. And all credit to him, he kept a clean sheet. I don't know how many people would have had him in their lineup going into that game, and particularly starting. I think that'd actually be quite low, but all credit. He was the best goalkeeper of the week, wasn't he?
Oh, definitely. He did the best. Obviously, De Gea had a clean sheet.
Well, Adrian as well in the West Ham keeper, who I had, finished with 9 points with 2 bonus points.
You should have spoken about him last week. I might have brought him in.
Yeah,
I love that cheeky. I was contemplating getting rid of De Gea so that I can have someone else, which gives me a roster spot to get none other than Zlatan. So I'll definitely think about that one.
Did you actually read anything about Valdez's injury?
No, but I heard
he missed the game. I only had him on the bench. I actually started with Adrian, so it was irrelevant. But I'm curious I can't find much information in terms of like longevity. Is it weeks? Is it just the one game? I'm not sure because that. Yeah, I think
we'll have to wait and see what the injury report comes out as. We'll move on to defenders since there's a lot of activity with the defensive side of things. We'll start off with
a lot of clean sheets.
Yeah, a lot of clean sheets. Defenders doing well. So Gareth McCauley, he had a goal. He scored a goal. Did not keep a clean sheet. Got a negative 1 for a goal conceded because they conceded 2, but he still came through with 7 points. And all the people who jumped on the bandwagon, he's kind of helped them out.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have gone on him for 1 as a cheap defender, 2 to get some boost in cap. He's already at 4.6.
Yeah.
Likely to go to 4.7. So if he keeps this performance, I think he's definitely going to go into my team. Considering it's still 4.6, I'll be a bit disappointed that I missed out on that early rush, but that's fantasy.
You almost have to wait though, don't you? I mean, how many 4s or 4.5s have one performance
that's
and
exactly
then
right.
follow up with some not so great
right.
performance? So
the next one we'll touch on really quickly. He's probably going to be a mainstay in my team this year. Luke Shaw, 5.5.
Yeah.
clean sheet, assist, 2 bonus points. I'm not complaining. He did really well to give the 2 bonus points. There's a lot of players in Man United who could have contributed and taken some of the bonus points. Like Martial, Rooney. Obviously, Zlatan got the 3, but getting 2 there, I'm quite happy with that.
He's the best bet in the United defence line.
Yeah. Do you have him?
Oh, I don't have him, no.
I would definitely suggest listen to the video. And
I'll have a listen afterwards. Yeah,
you can get him. Walker from the Spurs. He's a spud. I think he did well. I'll give that to him. He's up to at 5 and 6, 7 points, clean sheet, 2 bonus points. So some attacking returns. Do you think he's going to be this season's Alderweireld? Or is that too early to call at this point in time?
I have Alderweireld. To be honest, I think
Alderweireld gave 6 points.
Yeah, 6 points. I was tossing up on I wanted a Spurs defender and I went with Alderweireld. So I don't think so. Walker's a good player and he's going to get some. I think he's going to get some attacking points from your defence as well, and then you're also betting on keeping some clean sheets.
And it's slightly cheaper, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean that's probably the.
Is Alderweireld 6.5?
I think he's 6. I don't actually have it in front of me.
Okay, we'll have a look at that. The next guy who I had in my team a lot last season, he was in and out depending on the schedule, but he actually ended up being schedule proof. He's a classic example, Patrick Van Aal. He gave 9 points, 2 bonus points, and did not keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, well that's amazing.
So I don't suspect he'll be giving too many points from keeping a clean sheet since their defense is in a bit of a disarray. Obviously with players moving in and out last season as well. I suppose his status in the starting 11 is, there's no doubt that he will always be there and he's got a potential to give goals. Last season I think he had the most shots on target as a defender in the entire Premier League. So
wow.
Definitely want to watch. Fixture proof. The next person that I want to talk about, you won't believe it, but this guy, Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Sergio Aguero have given 3 bonus points each. And the way the bonus points are calculated in the BPS, so the total number.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can get 40 and give you the 3, sometimes you get 30 and give you 3.
Yeah.
This guy has the 3rd most.
Oh.
So he's been a very, very busy player.
Mm-hmm.
None other than Curtis Davis at 5. He is 3rd in overall bonus points at 63.
That's impressive. Who would have had that?
No one would have predicted that.
No.
I mean, unless you're a die-hard house supporter, you would not have.
They've started really well actually.
He gave a clean sheet, 1 assist, and 3 bonus points this week. How good is that?
Yeah, I mean, I assume his percentages are only going to rise if that's the case. I assume he's one of the guys that are going to be locked into that lineup. And
is.
At that price, well, I mean, he's playing like he's the best defender in the league. But how long Hull can maintain their form, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, but I'm sure they'll be happy with their current.
Well, yeah, I mean, whoever's got him in their fantasy lineup right now, he can almost finish the season poorly, and you've probably got your money's worth.
Definitely. I mean, he's someone to watch.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to my watch list. Moving on to midfielders, we need to talk about him. Last week we kind of decided not to talk about him. I can't remember if we elaborated on him, and that's Kapawe. 4.6 right now, 9 points, another goal, 2 bonus points. I know he's got 2 goals in 2 games. There's some injury concerns right now that he's saying there's a 75% chance of him playing this week. But what are we going to do? Do we put him in?
A lot of these players I've noticed
That's 2 games.
with 75% chance of playing, they're not playing. I don't know where they come up with their percentages and whatnot, but look, I mean, if he's playing, then he's one of the best low-priced midfielders around
in the last few seasons.
Yeah.
At 4.5 he started at. I think that's ridiculous.
He's not the kind of player that you kind of query, is this a fluke, is it one-off? He's been doing it for a while, not maybe to this extent, and how their schedule looks may sort of determine whether or not you...
They're playing Arsenal.
Yeah, that's...
At home, so that could be interesting. I'm not going to really comment on that, being an Arsenal fan. Moving on, I mean, this one is, we spoke about this before the video. Re-recording. Nolito, 8.9. He had a fall in value. 22 minutes, did you say it was?
Yeah.
2 goals.
Yeah.
2 bonus points.
Yep.
He gave 13 points. So if you had him and you stuck with him, I'm very happy for you.
Well, I'm not sure how you have
him. If I had him in my team last week, and the fact that he didn't start or anything, and now he comes in and does this, so he's obviously rewarded the people who had faith in him. But
I don't know how you have him. Again, he played 22 minutes. I don't know how on earth he would possibly, at that price, early in the season at least, when maybe now he starts maybe seeing some more minutes in that, but up until this point, to have someone at 9 million who, look, he played well. He scored the 2 goals, got a couple of bonus points in just 22 minutes. So, but again, I just don't know how you would have had him in your lineup. And even on your bench at that price is just too high.
Yeah, well, if you had him in your bench and you saw what he did, you'd probably be very disappointed. All right, moving along. West Ham's Michael Antonio. He had a goal, 3 bonus points. Obviously, Payet was another player that disappointed a lot of owners over the weekend. Yeah. But Antonio came through. He's 7 currently. Gave 11 points. Is this something to watch? I mean, I'm not going to buy into it just yet. I need to see more.
But the guys from last year, the guys like Mahrez, Payet, who were of value last season, and have obviously had their values increased dramatically. They're not playing up to those values. So, is he potentially last season's Mahrez or that type of player who's going to play going to score more than what his value dictates? So it's definitely worth sort of keeping an eye on, because that's how you win comps, is by having players at those sort of prices outperform their value.
Yeah, you got to have a core, and you got to be willing to take a few risks to help differentiate yourself. I mean, he could potentially be that guy. I do have faith in Payet coming back healthy. I mean, other than that, those are the 3, impressive performances in midfield. Obviously, like I said, Barkley gave an assist with 5 points, but the other 3 we just mentioned, they had close to 10 points each. Moving on to forwards, a lot of activity. I'm gonna be very simple and straight with the first 2. 13.1 million, Sergio Aguero, 13 points, 2 goals, 3 bonus points. 2 weeks in a row, he's given them max bonus points. Do we need to speak on that anymore?
Oh, I mean, look, you've got 2 strikers, and then you've got the rest.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I think everyone knows it. I don't know. I'd be interested to know what percentage of people have both. Because I've noticed a lot of the big scoring teams over weeks 1 and 2 have both, and then have used one of them as captain. Obviously, we had an instance where in our league, 2 guys had Aguero in their team and went with other players as captain, which is mind-boggling to me. But look, you've got your top 2 strikers in, and there's a huge gap to the rest, and you're probably getting a bit of value from guys at the $6 to $6.5 million range, guys like Negredo who played well again. I had him on my bench, unfortunately. So look, we can talk about Aguero and Zlatan all day and how great they are, but if you don't have one of them, you're already miles behind the rest.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they essentially replicated each other. Different price tags. Both got 13 points and 3 bonus points. So both of them are on the max bonus points in 2 games. It's head to head with City, and it's head to head in fantasy. Between the 2, Negredo, he's 6.7. He's gone up. All the people who have backed him, he's justified his price. He's given 10 points.
Yep.
So, I mean, what more can you ask for?
No,
he didn't score, but he gave you 2 assists and 2 bonus points.
Yeah.
So far he's got 5 bonus points in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
A lot of people had, at the start of the season, there was a lot of talk between who am I going to have as my cheap attacker.
Sort of
because what they were going with was, if I have Aguero, or if I have Zlatan, or if I have both, I definitely need a cheap one. And there's a lot of people who banked on this guy, Andre Gray.
Yeah.
Between him and the Gray.
Yeah.
He came through with a goal and an assist.
Yeah.
And 1 bonus point, so he did deliver.
He's a bit of a workhorse as well.
Yeah, he was running around the field, wasn't he?
Does a lot. And yeah, I think his percentages of own, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but I'm sure that's just going to continue to grow if he keeps playing the way he's playing. And certainly worth a look at that. I don't think he's seen an increase in value.
Not as yet.
So he looks to be their guy, and he'll be getting opportunities. And I do know from a little bit of research that I've done is he's been talked about by a lot of different people.
He scored a lot of goals in the championship last season.
Yeah.
Obviously, but when you come from the championship to the Premier League, it's a completely different. It's a completely different league. So you always have to be a bit mindful. But interestingly enough, newly promoted teams are doing well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, considering the games that they played, obviously Liverpool's one that probably should have punished Burnley. I don't think Burnley's a better team than them, but
no. Well, they played a system that fit their needs, and they scored when they had probably 10% of the chances and opportunities Liverpool had, and they just scored 2 goals.
And they did what they had to do at home.
They
just took care of business. So I'm sure the home fans would have been very happy with that.
Defended well.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to our next topic. There's some key talking points after 2 weeks.
Yes.
This was one of them last week. Has the party ended for Jamie Vardy, or is it about to end?
I don't have him. I thought he was too expensive, to be honest. But I would be leaning towards a home encounter against Swansea for his turnaround this week. If that doesn't happen, he'd be out the door for mine.
He's out the door. Wow. Well, I mean, the predicament for me is whether trading and bringing Zlatan, whose value keeps going. So if I miss him, unfortunately I don't have the cap space there. I mean, that's going to be a tactical thing for me.
The one benefit of Jamie Vardy's value is that it's a lot easier to transfer him for Zlatan Ibrahimovic, obviously with another move as well. Oh, unless you've got cap, of course.
Yeah, almost.
But they're not far apart. Whereas if you're trying to
get Aguero,
you almost have to play a wild card.
Exactly. It also gives me a chance if Harry Kane picks up.
Yeah. No, he's been disappointing.
I mean, he's another key player. Tell me this, Dembele doesn't assist him, but why is it whenever Dembele is there, he scores?
Yeah.
Dembele's suspended till the 18th of September, I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm staying away from Harry Kane. It's just a crazy statistics.
Yeah, it's one of those random facts, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I'm actually going to stick to that. I'm not going to go for it until he comes back. And
what's his value?
He's 10 or he's 10.
He's quite expensive. Okay. Yeah,
he's one of the higher priced strikers.
Yeah, that's right. Just from what we've seen, players at the 6.5, 7.5 million range, seeing what they're doing at literally a 2.5 to 3 million discount, I'd be leaning towards those sort of guys rather than the Harry Kanes and James Vardy's of the world. 11. Well, that's too high.
Until he starts performing.
Yeah.
This is very similar to last season's start. He was very slow, and a lot of people transferred him out. So what I'm hoping for, as someone who's watching, I'm obviously going to have him on a watch list. He's a brilliant player.
Yeah.
He's shown to have performed in big matches. I'm waiting for his value to fall.
Yeah.
I think people are going to start jumping ship. hopefully his value falls, and it'll be a great time for.
But I mean, is it
other managers
realistic to
capitalize.
think that he gets down to what 10 or
Oh,
10.5? What? That's
0.3.
still that. Yeah, like
I'm
that.
hoping for 0.3.
It's still an expensive striker. It's still not far from a Zlatan Ibrahimovic type
Oh,
value.
exactly.
So,
I mean, right now, if you want to spend 11, I'd say find an extra 0.6 and get Zlatan.
It's a no-brainer.
We've, I suppose, talked about Liverpool.
Yeah, we don't need to touch on Liverpool's
let's
performance.
not, before they lose the Garuda sponsorship.
Yeah, that's right.
Newly promoted sides, like I just mentioned,
Yeah.
doing quite well.
Yep.
Interesting to see. I mean, the good thing with this is they're providing some fantasy assets
Yeah.
at a time of need, because there's a lot of people in the predicament of who have Zlatan or Aguero, and they're deciding whether to bring the other. Obviously, much easier if you have Aguero and you're trying to bring Zlatan.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a few people you could pick up. There's a defender, Curtis Davis is fine, so
Yeah.
someone to consider.
Hull have been
Impressive.
really impressive.
I think Mills
2
are
wins
having
from 2 games, 4 goals, 1 against. Look, they've got United this week, so I'm actually quite interested to see how they go, because that's their first real test with one of the big guys. I mean, I know they beat Leicester, but how much weight you give that. Those are champions. But yeah, I think this will be a real test, and if they can walk away with just even a point, that's a great start to the season for them.
It's funny how a season turns around. It's only game week 2, Leicester the champions, but the real test for Hull will be against a team that's not in the Champions League this season.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, that's a fair point.
But that's the big clubs and money, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's more when you talk about the big clubs. You are normally talking about the clubs with the most money. It's that simple.
Except for Arsenal.
Yeah. Well, they got money. They just don't like spending it.
Yeah.
And getting their 1 or 2% interest.
I'm gonna talk to you about the most expensive midfielder now.
Yeah.
Alexis Sanchez.
Yeah.
He's by far the most expensive midfielder. He's got a bit of a gap over the second person. He's only given 5 points. And I think a lot is to do with the fact that they don't have a striker and he's playing out of position. Normally he likes to play behind a striker and then he can attack. Because right now he's playing right up front, but then he cuts. So then when he cuts, there's no one else.
Yeah.
He's given 5 points. So obviously the extra 3 is because they had a clean sheet and he's a midfielder. So I rate him very highly as a fantasy asset.
Oh, big time.
I just don't know.
At that price though,
You can't take 5 points at that price, can you?
no. And I think an understated point is how much football he's played in recent times with representing his country, and you're bound to get to a point where you just you kind of do hit a bit of a low in form.
Well, I think he was. Unfortunately, with the whole Copa America realignment with the Euros, because he played the year before.
Yeah, that's right.
And then they rushed him back.
Yeah.
So he had a slow start last season, and
He
now
did. Similar thing.
and he's got this, and obviously Arsenal are in the midst of an injury crisis.
Yeah. Giroud, he's normally at his best when Giroud plays, and he's on the wing, and he can then sort of cut in from the wing rather than start in the middle and go wide, because you're right, they are missing that sort of striker that he can. When he wasn't scoring, he was picking up assists.
Exactly,
when he was
right
at his
now,
best,
I
and
think
that's
he's
just
trying
not
to
happening.
do too much,
Yeah, for sure. I 100%. I think he's
I think
way too overpriced.
I think what
to
Arsenal
have
are
at this
doing
point.
would actually work better in Europe in terms of Champions League. In the Premier League, he's not a big lad.
No.
The defenders are very physical. I
Mm.
mean, Liverpool are a good example. This
Yeah.
newly promoted defenders just managed to shake them around a bit.
Yeah.
So he's definitely one to watch. I'm gonna watch him. Obviously,
I can't
as an
have him.
Arsenal fan.
I'd wait. My thoughts on him, because I had him last season, and my thoughts were to wait that early season, wait till he can kind of get back to some sort of form. I was actually almost picked him to start slowly, and although 5 isn't starting that slowly, but at that price, I mean, that is a slow start at that price. So there's far more value to be had in many more players than what he's offering up.
Exactly. I mean, this week against Watford, that'll be a great test to see what's happening. But if you have him and he's not playing well, my suggestion would be to perhaps transfer him out at this stage, Get in someone like Negredo, so you have a cheap third striker, and you have a chance of upgrading to a Zlatan if you don't have him.
Yeah, exactly.
Or move laterally in midfield.
So I mean, he's the same price as Zlatan.
He's 11. Zlatan's 11.6. But
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's not great.
Well, Zlatan's average is double digits, and he's 2.5. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Another big name from last season, Kevin De Bruyne. So this is more interesting. So with Alexis Sanchez, we can come up with a multitude of excuses, although we shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
But we can.
Yeah.
They don't have the players. The defense is not settled.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at buying players. They don't have a striker starting. So multitude of excuses. Kevin De Bruyne, second most expensive midfielder. He's given 6 points. He's given 1 assist, but City have scored 6 goals. And he was one of last season's top performers.
Yeah, if you take away the fact that City has scored that many goals and he's had the 1 assist in 2 games isn't atrocious. But if they have scored as many goals as they have and he hasn't been sort of the creator of that, and I don't know actually, I haven't seen sort of full games of City to be perfectly honest to know, have they been almost hockey assists? Has it started with him and then one further pass who gets the assist? And if that's the case, then his assists are going to start rolling. So you probably have to actually watch some footage to be perfectly honest to see how he's actually playing.
Well, when I was looking into the stats for the bonus points where Stumble across Curtis Davis, he was not showing up.
Yeah.
So he's been a bit quiet. We'll have to.
It's
I guess,
2
watch
games,
more film.
and again, it's price, isn't it? It's value, and there's probably better options at this point. But look, it'll take 1 game for him to score 2 and have an assist to then bring his whole season averages up.
He
to
does have
reasonable
a technical credential. There's a proven player in the Premier League. He did well last season in his debut season.
Yeah.
Speaking of debut seasons, Pogba.
Yeah.
He's owned by 4.3% at this stage, 8.5 million. He gave just 3 points.
Yeah.
I believe. But so there's obviously no stats. But from what I saw, he seemed to have adjusted really well. He did have a bit of a presence. His first touch was super sloppy.
Well, yeah. Now, did he play slightly deeper than sort of many expected? Like, is he? I think he's going to almost be at best when. I know Rooney fills in like an attacking midfielder role more than striker sometimes, and I think that's probably where you'll see Pogba at his best.
Well, what the interesting thing was with him starting, Zlatan didn't have to fall back as much. So Zlatan had essentially less running to do, which at his age I think it'll add up because he's in his mid-30s. Premier League is the toughest league by a mile, and all of those things help. So I think that's definitely interesting. I've got him on my watch list. I want to see what he does.
Yeah, well, I've simply intrigued to see how he goes based on his actual price that Manchester United paid for him. He's got
you'd
a lot
expect
to
some
live up
fantasy
to.
returns.
Surely you would. Yeah, he's not as expensive as what United paid for him in terms of fantasy, so he might be worth getting. I know we sort of touched on it last week that he might be. I think he's well priced. And relatively easy to bring in if you think, you can swap a Christian Eriksen who's sort of out of form at the moment.
Exactly.
It's almost a clean swap.
Yeah, the price is inviting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's definitely one to watch. I've got him on a watch list. How about you as a Liverpool fan?
Look, I've got 2 United players in my starting lineup, so
I have to take the loyalty out of fantasy.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards keeping Martial over bringing in Pogba. It's unlikely that I'm going to bring in both Pogba and Martial, so it'll almost be a decision between the 2, and at this point, Martial it is.
Yeah, he's a proven player in the Premier League, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's just the position wise, I just think he's provides the best value. He's going to score probably more goals.
So, an interesting thing's happened since the fantasy season started. Aguero is no longer the most owned player in fantasy. Zlatan is 51.5%. This rivalry, this is like, are we building into a rivalry or what is it? Well, City versus United, most likely to contend, obviously going to contend for the title.
Yeah.
Zlatan and Aguero on par for the Golden Boot.
Yeah.
they're on par to be the best in fantasy. And their ownership is 51.5 versus 50.
Yeah. No,
Both
I
have
think
scored 22 points.
it's good for the league. It's good for the league. It's good for the fantasy league.
It'd be good if both of them are 10.
You've gone with Aguero. I've gone with Zlatan. It's almost
And it's keeping everyone within striking distance,
that's right.
isn't it?
I'd be very interested to know the percentage of people that have both. I don't know what it is.
We'll have to dig into this one. Maybe
In terms of our league, I know of the 17 teams, 4 have both.
Wow.
9 have Aguero only, and 3 have Zlatan.
And you're one of those 3.
I'm one of the 3. And one crazy manager has decided against going with either of them. So
where is that person currently?
Well, I think second or third last. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
But no, the first game was United. Zlatan finishes with 26 points, I think it was, and that. I thought we even touched on it the next day. Is that's I've got a big tick there next to me. You've still got Aguero to play, and then Aguero in 20 minutes, scores 2 goals, and then here we are again. We're at the same point.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's definitely an interesting thing to follow.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 13 points, but
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. I think this is going to be amazing to watch. It'll make the season very interesting.
Yeah.
It'll make the Fantasy Premier League season very interesting. So we'll see what happens. 2 weeks from now, early kickoff is Man United hosting the intercity rivals, Man City. So a lot of people who are making these transfers, they need to be mindful.
Yeah.
At present, I have 3 players from each team.
Do you really?
Yeah, so I have Stones, Silva, who I may have to take out, Aguero, Zlatan, De Gea, and...
I don't have a single City player.
You don't?
No.
Well, I mean...
Sorry, Otamendi. I got a defender, yeah.
Yeah, well, he did well, didn't he?
Yeah, who I rate, and that's interesting. If you're going to have 6 players basically going into that fixture, so...
Yeah, I think I need to... do something about it because I've got 3 defenders. So if it's a nil or draw, I do that. I do hedge with defense versus attack, but I want everyone to score. So I have got a big decision to make and what to do there.
Yeah.
So either that, or I'm not going to make any transfers this week and have to that week and take out whoever's not performing. This week's
you've got a couple of weeks to
exactly. So you have to plan for those kind of things.
Yeah, no, I do.
Spurs Liverpool this week.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Oh, I'm nervous about it. It's the 3rd away game in a row, as we touched on. Spurs haven't been fantastic. It's going to be an interesting game. Whoever walks away with the points there is going to be big. I think it'll be massive if Liverpool can't walk away with 3 points and they finish after 3 games with 3 points after beating Arsenal 4-3. That'd be a very disappointing turn of events.
Do you think you would have felt differently if it had finished 4-1 versus 4-3? Would you have been a lot more confident?
Probably. That was always something to keep in mind, was that yes, we scored 4 but they scored 3. What if and Burnley was a prime example of what happens when you don't necessarily go on a scoring binge and yet you leak goals, you don't win games. We conceded 3 to Arsenal, 2 to Burnley. As I said, first week, I'd be staying away from Liverpool defenders and goalkeeper for the rest of the season.
Until the schedule eases up.
I'm not even sure if I'd take them in an easy. I mean, specifically
until you see a turnaround. You get them a few games before.
There's just way better options out there. I'm not confident they can get a clean sheet against anybody right now. So, I mean, if that's the case,
the good news with that game is Dembele's, like I mentioned, suspended till the 18th of September. So game is unlikely to score.
Yeah, well, that's a good stat. I like that. We'll see. Time will tell.
We'll touch base on the transfer market now.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the Benteke deal?
Oh, I really like it. I'm almost at a point where I have to change on my decision to bring in all those Crystal Palace players based on what I thought was an easy schedule. They've played 2, haven't scored a single goal. I hope Benteke is the difference, and I kind of saw it after the first game, was that they were just missing an out-and-out striker. Now he comes in, I hope that has a positive effect on the midfielders that I've got. So I'm going to give it a week, maybe two, because the schedule is still pretty light, albeit they're making it look really tough at the moment.
Definitely.
But I'm picking. I mean, whether or not you want to bring Benteke in, or you want to bring in maybe a cheaper midfield from the Palace lot that will, get a bit of a benefit from having Benteke in the lineup.
Well, they're at home to Bournemouth this week, so
Perfect.
it's an ideal opportunity for that, isn't it? I think they'll be very interesting to see what happens with that. So it's essentially, the funny thing with the sell transfer is, essentially Liverpool paid £500,000 to relegate Aston Villa.
Well, yeah, that's actually a good point.
I don't know if a lot of people have thought of that.
No, it hadn't crossed my mind.
So I didn't know that there was a Liverpool Aston Villa thing, but who knows? Maybe there is.
Yeah, well,
someone in the Liverpool board could have been in the Aston Villa board and got fired. Has been bitter, and this has been a very good thing. I mean, if there were any intentions.
Look, he didn't get it. I don't think he got his opportunities in Liverpool, to be perfectly honest. I think
that's true.
He's perfectly suited for those mid to lower tier teams that build systems around his abilities. Liverpool ain't going to do that for one player.
No, you have Coutinho running around.
Yeah, so he actually dropped value because he started the season with Liverpool, right? I think he's down to 7.4 million. Now, I don't know if that'll sort of spike almost immediately. I think that's really good value for a guy that they've paid that much for. He's going to be given more than enough opportunity to, find his feet. He's performed in the Premier League before in similar circumstances for a sort of a lower to mid team that's just going to, get the ball to him in places that he's just going to be at his best at. So I think he might be a pretty solid pickup at 7.4 million.
No, that'll be definitely something to watch. Do you see any key transfers happening?
I don't know about happening. I know I'm interested to see if you're keen to take advantage of Everton's schedule. They signed Balassi. They paid 30 million for him. Now I think that's a massive overpay, to be perfectly honest. But at 6 million, he might be the right person in their midfield if you're looking for players to bring in.
That is a reasonably priced, isn't it?
That's pretty, and I mean, if you pay $30 million, for a player like that, I mean, I think that's personally too much, but he should well and truly be given an opportunity, and I think he, as I said, based on a decent schedule, I think he might be able to create some chances, and hopefully Lukaku can benefit for that.
A day before recording this, I saw something that Chelsea were going to put a bid in of 60-odd million for James Rodriguez. But then last night I saw that Zidane said no, he's happy to stay here. That would have been crazy. I think Chelsea, United and City would have definitely sealed the top three spot.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't like the guy, but Diego Costa seems to have found some form early in the season. Yeah, so I don't know why they continue. I mean, he's a lunatic, to be perfectly honest, but maybe that's a worry for them, But he seems to be playing pretty well, so I don't think that they're too fussed. And I know in other news,
a lot of midfield options as well.
Yeah. So. In other news as well, Lukaku looks to have confirmed that he'll be staying at Everton, so that's a massive win for Everton. And a win for me because I had him, and although he's been sort of injured to start the season, I would definitely be getting rid of him if he went to Chelsea, just for the fact that Diego Costa's there, you don't know what you're going to get. At Everton, he's the
starting every
superstar.
Game. When he's healthy, he's going to start every game.
As long as he's healthy, that's right.
Well, I'm hoping Arsenal make a couple of transfers, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm just
Don't hold your breath.
So far, the funny thing is, leading into the season, Arsenal are linked with a whole bunch of people, and as an Arsenal fan, and it always says, they're going to spend 200 million or 40 million on this, and as soon as I see the headline, I know it's rubbish, because Arsenal don't really spend that much money. But and the funny thing is, we've got a crisis in defense. We need another striker. The only person I've seen Arsenal linked with is a teenage midfield sensation from Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I'm sure he could be good, and even if he ends up being an amazing player, we need someone. We need someone right now.
Well, you don't need midfielders either.
Oh, and we don't need midfielders either. Moving on to the market watch. Well, almost 200,000, 195,000 people at the time of this have brought in Zlatan. His value's gone from 11.5 to 11.6. Could he go up again?
I think he'll continue to rise. I mean, he's performing.
This game week?
Well, I don't know about this game. Well, at 195,000 people have brought him in, then maybe this game week. He's performing like Aguero at 13.1, is it?
Yeah.
So look, he's only going one way. He's only going to get more expensive as he continues to play this way. So if you don't have him and have similar price players in other positions, it's certainly worth a look.
Well, he looks like he's in prime position to reward the 195,000 that brought him in. He's away to Hull. That'll be a good test.
It might be a good game to watch, to be honest, just to see how both are. But Zlatan's just scoring goals. So I think there's 195,000 people right.
Yeah, second.
Plus the million odd that are also already out.
Yeah, definitely. Over close to $1.5 million. Over $1.5 million. Yeah, 50%. Negredo has gone from 6.6 to 6.7, so he keeps going up a point on every week. 137 people have brought him in. Do you think it could be in relation to the Zlatan trades to fit in another?
Yeah,
these managers could have someone like Vardy and Kane.
Yeah,
because a lot of people went with Vardy and Kane as a level below, and they haven't performed at this stage.
Yeah,
and they perhaps have done that.
And I mean, look,
doesn't seem like a bad
to bring. If you didn't have Zlatan and you wanted to bring him in, then you have no choice but to look for guys at the 6 to 7 million range for that third sort of striker. And especially if you've got guys, as you said, like Kane and Vardy. It's not actually that big of a jump to go from them to Zlatan and then bring in someone like Negredo.
Kane is 11, so
yeah, there you go.
And if he doesn't perform, you might end up losing value. So it's not a bad decision. Yeah. Next one's Capoeira. He's 4.5 to 4.6. Scored 2 goals. 126,000 people have brought him in. They're playing Arsenal this week, and there's slight injury concern. So one to watch. I mean, it's interesting that a lot of people have brought him in. If he continues to perform, I'll definitely be bringing him in myself.
Who's that?
Capoeira.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, look, I think a lot of people haven't really paid that much attention. They've just seen how many points he scored and what his price is, and almost thought it irrelevant, his injury concern as well as his upcoming fixture. I wouldn't be bringing him this week, but certainly there's room for him in your lineup at that price, even if it's just to sit on the bench.
Yeah, definitely. You could just sit on the bench and give you value. Next one's Aguero.
Well, I mean, what is it, 122,000 people? So, I mean, almost all of those would have had to have used some sort of wild card or have saved transfer or whatnot. So.
I know a couple of managers in our league have used the wild card. So they're contributing to it.
And I mean, look, if he continues to increase, I don't know how much more than 13 million someone can be, to be perfectly honest.
He could go up to 13.5.
Yeah, at most. I don't know what the record in Fantasy Premier League is in terms of price throughout a season.
We might have to go back to when Suarez had his killer season, but I think it would be perhaps Ronaldo's last season because he would have started at that level and continued to go up, but maybe we can look into that. Next one's Shaw, obviously playing well for United, 106,000 people, so it clearly makes sense, and they've had a reasonable start to the season. And now we'll go to the outs. Payet, most transferred out, he's still 9.5, his value hasn't changed, but with the number of people transferring him out, I'm sure there's a decrease in value imminent.
Yeah, I think, absolutely. He's not living up to...
Well, obviously first game he didn't play.
Yeah, I just think that it was always going to be tough for him to... Because in my opinion, he would have had to have improved on what he did last season to justify that sort of pricing. Yeah. And I thought that was always going to be a tough ask. He's what is he, 500,000 less than someone like
he's very Hazard 10.1.
So I mean, I would be looking elsewhere. I mean, look, there's no denying his ability. I think he's going to score fantasy points, but I just at 9.5, I'm looking elsewhere.
Okay, we spoke about Vardy.
Yes.
His value's already gone down once this game week. 109,000 people have got rid of him. Andy Carroll, well, he's got his knee injury, so he's out.
Yeah.
It makes sense that 65,000 people have got rid of him. People are losing faith in Harry Kane.
Yeah.
It's
just
not
for price,
100K
just solely
yet,
for price, I'm sure.
Yeah, 70 odd thousand. So he's happening. And
he's the easiest way into Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure a lot of the 72,000 people have gone to Zlatan if they didn't have him.
Yeah.
Or Aguero even, because that's not that bad.
Yeah.
So it's a good place to be to if you want to jump to either of them. And Mane, Liverpool, he's got a shoulder injury.
Yeah. And I think he might be 2 or 3 weeks from last I heard.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense that he's
got. But hey,
but it'll be good.
He drops, that might be a decent sort of get. Not up. Now, but in 2 weeks or when he's slowly starting to make his way back. He looked really good.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll move on to schedule.
We won't touch on Crystal Palace's because I've been
you've been burnt by them
since.
All right. Well, I'll give you 3. Obviously, first one you spoke about Everton.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just give you the schedules.
Yep.
Home to Stoke, away to Sunderland, home to Borough, away to Bournemouth, home to Palace. They have a very good run.
Yeah.
And with Lukaku.
And that's why I'm keeping Lukaku, and that's why I've brought in Leighton Baines. I have noticed he's on a few less set pieces than I would have liked for Everton. So I don't know if
that's because of Barkley taking some.
Yeah. So I'm interested because I mean that's where most of his value came from was those situations that he was either taking penalties or a lot of the free kicks. So if that's dropped off a bit. Maybe there's someone else in the back line. At this point, he was my bet on the Everton schedule and their defence in particular during that schedule.
Well, I've had a look at Everton's. I watched Everton's first couple of games. They're doing well. I really like what I see. So I think they have a chance to establish position in the Premier League, and in terms of fantasy, they should be able to. We'll go next to Arsenal, which I was hoping they'd have a better schedule, like a favourable schedule like this a bit later. But perhaps this could be something that gets their season back on track. Away to Watford, home
2
to
games
Southampton.
They're at 1 point.
1 point in 3 games. So away to Watford, home to Southampton, and then away to Hull. So
they probably need a schedule like that after getting 1 point from the first
games,
2. So well needed, with a schedule like that over the first over the next 3 games. I mean, I know 2 are away, but they certainly be looking at potentially bringing players in. That's a favourite schedule.
One player that I would really be considering is Bellerin.
Mm-hmm.
He did quite well over the weekend. He's gone expensive this week, 6.5, but he's got the potential for assists, and there's a chance of a clean sheet, especially if we finalise the defence signing. West Brom's won.
Yeah, and they've been good.
They have
defensively.
They've been their players have been giving some returns.
Yeah,
they've got Borough, Bournemouth, and West Ham. So
I mean, I guess particularly the next 2 in particular, that's a pretty strong schedule to bring in someone from West Brom. Although I do know a lot of people are already making those moves to West Brom players. Definitely. I think defence in particular. I think their defence is looking relatively strong.
Definitely. We'll move on to the final segment of our video, Captaincy. Probably the most important segment.
Yeah, well, it's actually becoming less of a decision, really. To be perfectly honest.
Yeah, definitely. It's not like last season, is it?
You've got some decisions to make. Do you have Ibrahimovic? Do you have Aguero? If you don't have either, get one of them now. And if you have one, the one that you have has to be captain. And it's as simple as that. For me, there are no other alternatives than having, right now anyway, Aguero or Ibrahimovic as your captain.
Yeah, it's more of a decision if you have both of them.
That's right. Then you have to decide. Then you look at schedules.
They go home to West Ham or away to Hull.
That's exactly right. But if you've only got one, our league in particular, there were two guys that had Aguero and did not make him captain, which to me that is just outrageous. I don't know. One selected Vardy, obviously a bad decision, and the other selected Martial. So I don't know. For me, it's not even a question. If you've got Aguero or you've got Zlatan, they have to be captain.
Wow. Well, I'll throw in a third one.
Okay.
Just if someone wants to really differentiate themselves, Hazard. He seems to be playing well.
Yeah.
He's got penalty duties back.
And they've got Burnley. I mean,
home to
Burnley were pretty solid against Liverpool defensively. Look, if they don't get that early goal from a defensive mishap, do they sort of maintain that ability to just sit back and let Liverpool do everything in the midfield? Probably not.
Yeah.
So look, I think that early goal really helped them in that ability to just keep that clean sheet and just keep the ball in the midfield, and that was about it.
Definitely. I mean, I think the other thing that's going to be against Burnley in this game is their way.
Yeah.
Stamford Bridge isn't an easy place to win.
No.
And Chelsea have a very settled backline at this stage, and the fact that they have Kante sitting in front of them, it's very solid. So it provides that room for them to do something.
Yeah.
Perhaps Hazard can do something, but that's only for someone who wants to really differentiate themselves. I'm going with either Aguero or Zlatan. If I decide to bring Zlatan in, but at this stage, my captain.
I think Hazard is perfect if you don't have either, but why you don't have either is another question. But I actually think he might be reasonably priced, even though he's quite expensive. Him at his best, which we saw a couple of seasons ago, is one of the best fantasy players in the league. If he's sort of getting back to those levels, then it might be worthwhile snapping him up at that price before it gets a little bit more expensive.
All right, well, that's close to a wrap. Any last words?
I would say you'll never walk alone, but I'm still pretty frustrated at the moment, so no last words.
No last words. All right, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys like, or if you have comments, we're happy to interact with you guys. We'll see you next week. Peace.